You graduated. Maybe you got the degree, maybe you skipped it and just went straight to work. Either way, you've been out here grinding for years now, working hard, figuring things out, showing up every single day. And here's the part that nobody actually talks about. You're probably making more money today than you ever have in your entire life. But somehow, at the end of every single month, you're still staring at your bank account wondering where it all went. Not because you're careless, not because you don't try. You actually know a lot about money. You've read the articles, watched the videos, nodded along to advice that made complete sense in the moment. And yet, the savings are still low, the stress is still high, and the financial version of yourself you imagined 5 years ago still hasn't shown up. That's not a discipline problem. That's something much deeper, and that's exactly what we're going to get into today. My name is Ben, and I spend way too much time thinking about why intelligent, hardworking people still can't seem to get ahead with money. If you're someone who understands the basics of personal finance, but still feels stuck, stressed at the end of the month, and like the finish line just keeps moving further away, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Here's the thing, and I really want you to sit with this for a second. Financial literacy alone does not make you financially free. I know that sounds almost offensive when I say it out loud. We've been told our whole lives that if you just learn enough about money, everything clicks into place. Read the right book, follow the right advice, understand compound interest, and boom, financial success. But here's what most people don't realize. Knowing what to do and actually doing it are two completely different things, and the gap between those two is exactly where most smart people get permanently stuck. Think about it honestly. You probably already know you should be saving at least 15 to 20% of your income. You've heard about index funds. You know carrying credit card debt at 24% interest is bad math. You've come across the idea of an emergency fund. None of this is new information to you. But knowing all of that hasn't moved the needle on your actual bank balance, has it? And that's not because you're lazy. It's because nobody ever explained the real reason that knowledge isn't translating into action. According to a 2023 survey by Bankrate, nearly 57% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense from savings. But here's what makes that number genuinely alarming. That group includes people with college degrees, people in professional careers, people who can confidently explain what a Roth IRA is over dinner. Smart, informed people, people who know things. So if knowledge were truly the answer, those numbers simply wouldn't exist. Something else is going on here. Look, let me be honest about something that almost nobody says out loud. Most people secretly believe their financial problems will be solved the moment they start making more money. It's the most comforting story we tell ourselves, and I completely understand why. It sounds so logical. Once I get that raise, once I land that big client, once things settle down at work, then I'll get serious about saving, then I'll start investing, then I'll sort all of this out. It's the financial version of starting your diet on Monday. Here's what actually happens, though. As your income goes up, your standard of living goes up almost automatically with it, and it almost never comes back down even when your income dips. You get a raise, you move into a slightly nicer apartment. You land a bonus, you get the better car. You close the deal, you take the trip you've been putting off. And none of those individual decisions feel irresponsible in the moment, because honestly, they aren't irrational. They feel earned. They feel proportional. They feel like the natural reward for all the grinding you've been doing. But here's what the math actually shows you, and this is where it gets really interesting. Say you earn $60,000 a year, and you're spending $58,000 of it. You're saving $2,000 a year. That's your reality. Now you grind, you push, you get that raise to $75,000. But your lifestyle quietly adjusts. Slightly higher rent, a new car payment, better groceries, a gym membership, dinners out a little more often. Now you're spending $73,500. You're still saving roughly $1,500. Your income went up by $15,000, and your actual savings went down. That is not a hypothetical. That is the documented financial reality of millions of people at every income level, from $40,000 a year all the way up to $200,000 a year. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Ben, but those are just small upgrades. It's not like I'm buying a yacht. And that's exactly the point. Lifestyle creep doesn't come at you all at once in one obvious, dramatic decision. It sneaks in quietly through 100 completely reasonable-seeming choices spread across 12 months. The streaming service you added, the food delivery habit that started during a stressful week and never stopped, the slightly higher rent for the apartment that's just a little bit nicer, just a little bit closer to work. Each one is individually defensible. Collectively, they eat your financial future while you're busy justifying each individual item. This is where it gets really interesting, because there's actual psychology behind why this happens. Researchers at Princeton studied what they call expenditure cascades. Essentially, the idea that when people around you upgrade their lifestyle, you feel subtle but real pressure to match it. It's not envy exactly, it's more like a recalibration of what feels normal. When your colleagues are all going to nicer restaurants, eating at the old spot starts to feel like you're falling behind. When your friends move into better apartments, your perfectly fine apartment starts to feel inadequate. And when normal shifts, your spending shifts with it, automatically, without you even consciously deciding to spend more. The uncomfortable truth is that your spending is being shaped constantly by your environment, your social circle, your Instagram feed, and your workplace, and almost none of it feels like a choice in the moment. It just feels like you're living your life, and that is precisely why it's so hard to catch and why so many smart people stay broke despite making genuinely decent money. Let me show you something that I think will genuinely shift how you see this. Let's talk about a person. Let's call her Amara. She's 30 years old, making $70,000 a year. She's not reckless with money. She pays her bills on time. She doesn't have crazy debt. She just doesn't save very much, maybe $150 a month, because after rent, food, transportation, subscriptions, and the general cost of existing as an adult in the modern world, that's what's left. Over a year, that's $1,800. She knows she should save more, she just feels like she can't right now. Now here's where the math gets painful. If Amara keeps saving $150 a month from age 30 to age 65, invested in something growing at an average of 7% annually, which is a historically reasonable return for a diversified index fund, she ends up with roughly $248,000 at retirement. That sounds decent until you realize with inflation, $248,000 in 35 years will have the purchasing power of about $90,000 today. That is not retirement. That is a few years of not working before the money runs out. And this is the retirement reality quietly approaching millions of people who think they're doing okay because they're not doing anything obviously wrong.
Now, flip it. Same Amara, same income, same 7% return, but instead of $150 a month, she finds a way to put away $500 a month. That's $350 more per month, or roughly $11.50 more per day. Maybe she cuts the food delivery habit, renegotiates her phone plan, moves to a slightly cheaper apartment, and stops the 3 subscriptions she forgot she was even paying for. At $500 a month over 35 years at 7%, she's looking at approximately $827,000. That's not a small difference. That is the difference between financial security and financial anxiety in retirement, and it came from decisions worth about the cost of 1 meal delivery order per day. Here's what most people don't realize about saving money. Most people treat saving as what's left over after they spend. They pay rent, buy groceries, cover their bills, enjoy their life, and whatever survives all of that gets put aside. And because life always has a way of filling up whatever financial space you leave it, what's left over is almost always close to nothing. This is the default system, and the default system is why people who've been earning decent money for a decade still don't have significant savings. The shift, and this sounds so simple that people dismiss it, is to pay yourself first, not as a cute phrase, but as a literal, automated, non-negotiable financial structure. The moment your paycheck hits your account, a set amount moves automatically into a separate savings or investment account before you ever see it, before you can spend it, before your brain can talk you out of it. What you live on is what remains. That's it. That's the entire psychological unlock. You stop trying to save what's left, and you start spending what's left after you save. When you automate saving, you remove the daily decision. And this matters enormously because decision fatigue is real. Every single day you have to consciously decide to save money is another day where your tired, stressed, busy, justification-prone human brain has an opportunity to say, "Not today." Automating it removes that decision entirely. The money is gone before the temptation exists. Behavioral economists at Harvard have shown that people who automate their savings consistently save 2 to 3 times more over their lifetime than people with identical incomes who save manually. Same knowledge, same intention, completely different outcome because of the system. This is where it gets really interesting because there's another force working against smart people that barely gets discussed honestly. Consumer debt, specifically credit card debt, functions like a tax on your future that you voluntarily signed up for. The average credit card interest rate in the United States as of early 2024 was hovering around 21 to 24% according to the Federal Reserve. That means if you carry a $5,000 balance on a credit card at 22% interest and you're making minimum payments, you will pay somewhere around $4,700 in interest before that card is cleared. You essentially bought everything on that card twice. Now, you might be thinking, I know this, I use my card for the points. And here's the thing, if you're paying it off every single month in full, that conversation is different. But research consistently shows that the majority of people who say they pay their card off every month don't actually pay it off every month. There are the months where something unexpected comes up, the car repair, the medical bill, the flight home for a family situation, and suddenly the balance that was going to get cleared this month rolls over and the interest clock starts running, and what felt like a smart financial tool starts feeling more like a very well-designed trap. The psychological problem with debt is that it makes the future feel abstract while the present feels urgent. Your rent is due now, your groceries need to happen now, the credit card bill is something you deal with later, and later, and later. But compound interest doesn't wait. It doesn't care that you had a hard month. It doesn't pause while you sort things out. And while you're managing the immediate costs of your daily life, the debt in the background is quietly growing, quietly pulling money away from what could have been your savings, your investments, your options. So let's talk about what actually works, because I don't want this to just be a breakdown of everything that's going wrong. Smart people who genuinely break out of this cycle don't do it by finding some secret investment strategy or stumbling onto a financial hack that nobody else knows about. They do it by getting brutally honest about one thing, the gap between what they earn and what they spend, and then they make that gap intentional instead of accidental. The first practical step is running a real, honest, category-by-category look at where your money actually goes. Not where you think it goes, but where it actually goes. Most people significantly underestimate their spending in 3 specific areas: food, subscriptions, and impulse purchases under $50. The under $50 purchases are particularly sneaky because individually they feel insignificant, but they add up to hundreds every month without ever triggering the part of your brain that recognizes them as a problem. Pull up your last 3 bank statements. Don't estimate. Look at the actual numbers. Most people are genuinely surprised by what they find. The second step is deciding, in advance, not in the moment, what your savings rate is going to be. Not an amount, a percentage of your income. The reason percentage matters more than a fixed dollar amount is that a percentage automatically adjusts as your income grows. If you commit to saving 15% and you earn $60,000, you're saving $9,000 a year. If you get a raise to $75,000 and you stick to 15%, you're now saving $11,250 without having to make a new decision. Your lifestyle can improve with the remaining 85%, but the savings rate stays locked. This is how you avoid lifestyle creep eating your entire raise. I want to spend a minute on something that I think people intellectually understand but emotionally underestimate, and that's time, specifically the cost of waiting. This isn't going to be the typical compound interest speech. You've heard that. What I want to talk about is what time actually represents in your financial life, because it's more than just math. Every year you spend not building the habit of saving and investing is a year you cannot get back. Not the money, the time. A dollar invested at 30 works for 35 years before a typical retirement age. A dollar invested at 40 only works for 25 years. That same dollar, same investment, different starting point. At 7% annual return, the 30-year-old's dollar becomes roughly $10.68. The 40-year-old's dollar becomes $5.43. Same person, same decision, same dollar, but the 40-year-old gets about half the result, purely because of a 10-year delay. That 10-year gap isn't just a number. It represents the years most people spend saying they'll start soon. And here's what actually happens with starting soon. Soon turns into a different job, a move, a relationship, kids, a health situation, a family obligation, and the mental energy required to set things up just never finds a clear, quiet moment to land. The people who end up financially secure in their 50s and 60s are almost universally people who started imperfect. They didn't wait until they had the perfect budget figured out, the perfect amount to invest, or the perfect knowledge of where to put it. They started with something small and stayed consistent, and time did the heavy lifting that no amount of financial knowledge ever could.
Here's the thing about investing that trips up a lot of people who are genuinely trying to do the right thing. They believe that investing is something you do after you've sorted everything else out, after the debt is completely gone, after the emergency fund is fully funded, after the income is higher, after the budget is perfectly under control. And while the order of operations does matter to some degree, the perfect sequence becomes the enemy of actually starting. The simple version that research consistently supports is this. If your employer offers a retirement account match, meaning they contribute money on your behalf when you contribute, you take that match first, all of it, because that is an immediate 50 to 100% return on your money before any investment return happens at all. After that, you focus on eliminating high-interest consumer debt, because paying off a 22% interest credit card is mathematically the same as earning a guaranteed 22% return, which no investment reliably offers. After that, you build a basic emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses so that the next unexpected cost doesn't land on a credit card and restart the debt cycle. And then, with whatever you can consistently commit, you invest in low-cost, diversified index funds inside a tax-advantaged account, and you leave it alone. That is not a secret. That's just the boring, consistent thing that actually works over time. Now, you might be thinking, Ben, I can't afford to do all of that right now. And I want to be honest with you. You might be right. Maybe right now you can only do one piece of this. Maybe right now the most you can manage is $75 a month going somewhere intentional instead of disappearing into the general noise of your spending. That's okay. That's not failure. The only actual financial mistake is knowing something needs to change and continuing to do nothing about it while waiting for conditions to be perfect. I want to acknowledge something before I wrap this up, because I think it's important and a lot of financial content skips over it. Getting your finances in order is genuinely hard, not because the concepts are complicated. We've just walked through the core of it, and it's not rocket science. It's hard because you're doing it in the middle of a real life, with real pressure, real family obligations, real stress, real unexpected expenses, and a culture that is aggressively designed to separate you from your money at every turn. Every app on your phone, every streaming service, every retailer, every social media platform you use is operated by people who have spent billions of dollars studying exactly how to make spending feel natural and easy and rewarding, and make saving feel inconvenient and abstract and joyless. You are not fighting bad habits. You are fighting billion-dollar systems designed by behavioral scientists whose entire job is to keep you spending. Understanding that doesn't make it easier, exactly, but it does reframe the problem. You're not weak, you're human, navigating a system that is very deliberately working against the goals you're trying to build toward. And that's why the structural stuff matters so much more than the motivational stuff. Motivation fluctuates, willpower runs out, life gets busy and hard and complicated, and the version of you that's tired and stressed and just got home from a long day is not the version of you that makes ideal financial decisions. But if the system is set up right, if the savings are automated, if the budget is realistic, if the debt has a real payoff plan, then tired, stressed you doesn't have to make the right call every day. The structure makes the right call for you, even when you're running on empty.
So here's where I want to land this, because I believe in giving you something real to walk away with. This week, not next month, not when things calm down. This week, do one thing, just one. Open a separate savings account if you don't have one, ideally at a different bank than your checking account, so it's not sitting there tempting you. Decide on a percentage of your income, even if it's just 5%, and set up an automatic transfer for payday. Not the day after payday, payday. The moment that money hits, a piece of it moves before you touch it. That's the whole move. That's the system starting. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to know everything about investing before you start saving. You don't need to be earning a certain amount before the habit matters. The habit is the point. The consistency is the point. The math rewards consistency over time more than it rewards any single smart decision. And the people who look back at 55 or 60 and feel genuinely okay about where they are financially, not rich necessarily, just okay, just secure, just not afraid. Those people almost all say the same thing. They wish they had started the habit earlier, not bigger, earlier. You're watching this video, which means some part of you is already trying to do better. That matters. That's real. Don't let the perfect plan be the thing that stands between you and actually starting. Start somewhere. Start small if you have to. Start imperfect. Start today. And if this video helped you think about your money differently, hit that like button. Leave a comment with one thing you're going to do this week. I actually read those. And subscribe if you want more of this kind of content. I'll see you in the next one.